I want us to loop back in the last 2 minutes to a couple of questions that have come up pretty frequently through the collection of cards, and I'm hopeful that they're repeated in the contact with our technology connection. And they are from Destiny Awama. Destiny, where are you? Destiny. Thank you. Your question is about motivating students to learn, and I think it plays into the involvement piece from community and parents as well. So ask your question and let's see what our panel has to say about it.
I wanted to know, how can we encourage Latino and Black students to do better in school?
Very good, thank you. I want to start with Angelique and work my way down the panel. How can we do this, Angelique?
Well, first off, there has to be some type of relationship that basically ties in the teacher and the student, but just student one-on-one. That basically, yeah, just ties in with having a relationship with that person. That can definitely be started in clubs, extracurricular activities that you might have. Because I know at my school, there are not diverse, but I would say many Latinos and Blacks on say football teams or in ASB or in different variety of clubs. I think that definitely brings them together because they have that interaction with people, and I think that just definitely brings us all together because that brings a close bond with us, and that lets us know that it's okay to trust everybody. That's okay to have a friend that's a different color or a different race. Mm-hmm. And
great, thank you, Angelique. Tina.
I think that the building of that community and that spirit for school is a great suggestion. I also think that when we talk about differences between Hispanic and Black, and then myself being white, children may look at me and see an exterior, and they may make certain assumptions about who I am, being a teacher and all of that, a female. And I think that for me, I need to make sure that I'm reaching out and I'm presenting other people who don't look exactly like me, but look like you, who are successful and productive parts of our community, and that I can make these connections between you and someone who looks like you and someone who thinks like you and someone who's your age, and all kinds of resources that are out there that need to be brought in so that children can see themselves as potentially going into something wonderful.
Thank you, Tina. Myra.
I just think it needs to come from the parents. It doesn't matter if you're African American or Latino. You can succeed, and your parents need to move you in that right path and just show you different ways of other people's lives. It's hard for me to explain this, but because I don't see it that way. I just see it as a student, a child. Doesn't matter. You're going to move up and you support that kid. I do get that there's a gap, and it's going to take a lot to fix it, but I think just with the support of anybody, Black, white, Chinese, Mexican, that student's going to move forward.
Thank you, Myra. Superintendent.
Yeah, I think it's, we talked a lot about relationship tonight, and I think that's kind of at the core of this. I think it's a school-wide focus on really reaching out to kids who are disengaged, African American, Latino students who aren't doing well, and to really make it important to establish relationships and to re-engage them in kind of the core academic and life of the school. I think it's also important that as educators, we understand the experiences and the backgrounds of all of our kids, and that can only happen when you establish relationships. I think it's also important that for African American and Latino students, that they can see themselves and relate to their experiences and see themselves and their families in the curriculum. And so building on their prior experiences and knowledge and what they know and connecting that directly with the curriculum. I think is extremely important. I think it's important to bring role models onto campus. I think it's important to do a lot of goal setting and a lot of planning for the future and maintain high expectations. It's a variety, it's not any one strategy to deal with the achievement gap and to really re-engage African American and Latino students. It's really incorporating that into everything that you do, into everything that you implement, so that it becomes very important that the achievement of African American and Latino students improves at school and in the classroom.
Very good. Bob Harrison.
Yeah, I think it's all about the relationship and the atmosphere at that school. And I think we need to do a better job of looking at that, and looking, now that we have the ability to really look at the data and look and see if it, regardless of color, are our lowest achieving students always getting the least experienced teacher year by year, and on some of those things. And then it's also on how we do engage that parent. Does the parent feel comfortable coming onto the school site? Does the parent feel comfortable having that conversation with the teacher, or have we made it more difficult for that? I think what this data is so important is that we can do a better job of that early intervention. I think when we look, we all had feelings of it before. If you talk to any third grade teacher probably in the district, they had an idea of which kid was going to have trouble as they went through this. Mm-hmm. Now we have the numbers and the actual data to show it, and so that we can put individual programs for those kids, so that by the time they get to 8th grade or into high school, they're not 4 or 5 grades behind their counterparts.
Good, thank you. We've got a follow-up question from our student.
To say that you guys did a great job of analyzing that question. I want to say that several things need to be done to assist Latino and Black students. I took a Education 98 course at UCLA this past summer, and I studied this subject heavily. And I think that we need to, like as we said, relationships and parents. We need to engage the students more in their in academics, like. Oh, and also, some students, like, I know we talk about parents a lot. Some students don't really get that parenting feel at home. You know, many students' parents have work and stuff, so they don't necessarily come home to a home-cooked meal and their parent on their back telling them to complete their homework. Like, they need more assistance in that, and I think that can come from the schools, from programs from the schools, like you guys said. Like, I know the one thing that made me successful in my high school career is being involved in several programs that I get mentors to help me and tell me about college and scholarships and things like that. So I think that might be the main thing I would need to get help Latino and Black students out.
Thank you very much. I think that's an appropriate note to transition from. The voice from our young people telling us exactly what they've come to learn through the learning process offered through a connection in extended learning at UCLA. Thank you for being so committed to getting that out. An important note to wrap on. Well, here's the story. We've got lots to talk about. There's much more that could have been discussed. There are many more questions that could have been raised, both here that were submitted and those that were given over our technology waves. But this is not the beginning and end of a conversation. This is just the door opener to the conversation. And I would invite you who are here, and those of you who are viewing from the listening parties, and those who are connecting to us through technology, to seek out opportunities to get involved. As our parent Muir would say, get involved. Just show up.
Join PTA.
Join PTA.
And Student Site Council.
And Student Site Council.
And, no.
There are issues of concern to this community that are greater than those things that can be discussed here in a town hall. There are places that are being staged expressly for those inputs and for that dialogue. And I would encourage you to look at this opportunity as a door opener to become present and face those issues with us collectively. Because what you've heard from our school superintendent, from our board president in his presentation and his conversation with us today, and from our parent, teacher, and student, is that it is not a project of one group. It is all of us together making an effort to journey this trail and fixing it with each other so that we get a better outcome on the other side. We've heard examples of it from the summer. We know where we've got to go. We're hearing success stories even as we speak in parents who've taken on art and math at Webster. and in what goes on when folks really get in it. We invite you to get in it. And so tonight was a chance to sample what that could look like. Be encouraged. There's much more to share, much more to discuss, many more questions to be surfaced that desire our collective response. And so I invite you to do that as we go forward, the beginning of more conversations. Thank you, and congratulations on your first town hall meeting. Now, we have more to say, so don't leave yet. Renata Cooper is going to come back up here and talk a bit more about some next steps.